Would you believe this is the exact same smoky eye technique on both eyes, but they both look completely different? On this eye I've used cool tones, and then on the opposite eye I've used warm tones. The placement, the blending, everything is identical, but the vibe couldn't be more different. Let me know in the comment section which side you would wear. So let's start with the cool side first. I'm going to use this MAC eyeshadow palette called Encrypted Kryptonite, and it has some beautiful shades in it. Overall, this is going to give a nice cool toned finish. The first shade we're going to take is called Clear History, which is a very light beige. It's almost like a ivory cream. When it goes on the skin, as you can see, it gives a little bit more of a cool finish. This is going on the very inner corner of the eye to highlight this area. The brush I'm using to tap this on is the Morphe M301. Everything I'm using in today's video will be linked in the description bar below. I'm also taking a small amount of that across the brow bone. So that was a satin finish. This is a matte finish in the shade Power Mode, which is a light taupe. Using circular motions, I'm buffing this on the outer third of the mobile lid and also into the socket. I'm using the MAC 286S Duo Fibre brush, which means it picks up a little bit less product and it's also tapered, so that really does work in your favour when you're buffing something into the socket, because the tiny bristles come down to a point and that does all the work for you within the socket line. This is going to be the transitional shade, so this is the colour that we will take the highest, so buff this up towards the brow bone using what's left on your bristles. Going back to the palette, we're taking the shade Satin Taupe. This is a classic MAC shade. It's a frost finish eyeshadow and I like to apply this with a flat shader brush. This is the number 2 brush by Rephr. Using a patting motion, this is going on the outer third of the mobile lid. So up from the lash line up to where the eye naturally creases, and then we're going to blend that seam going back in with our MAC 286 brush. So just buff that into the shade that we've already applied that is slightly higher, which is what we refer to as the transitional shade. So everything that you apply will blend into that transition shade. Once you've blended that first layer, you want to go in with a second layer. The sandwiching technique is what's going to give your eyeshadow longevity and last throughout the day. Many people tend to apply one layer of their eyeshadow and then move on. You'll find that later on in the day, it looks as though your makeup's kind of been absorbed and worn away. So layering the same colour in the same placement often will mean that your eyeshadow will last a lot longer and you'll get a better payoff. Taking the Morphe M382, I'm taking that shade Power Mode underneath our lower eyelashes. We're now going to mimic those same colours underneath our lower eyelash line that we have on the top lid, and that will create a balance to the eyes. So here on my Rephr number 2 brush, I'm taking the Satin Taupe shade and running that underneath the lower eyelashes, but this time slightly closer to the root of the eyelash, and also making sure I connect that with the outer corner of the top lid. Next, we're taking the shade High Tea, which is a soft pink beige in a matte finish, and I'm going to take a large brush to apply this. This is the Rephr number 33, and this is going on the inner half of the eyelid that we have yet to apply any eyeshadow to. That's what these big brushes are great for. They cover a large surface area in minimal time. I'm now going back to Clear History and using that same Rephr brush and layering this over the High Tea shade that we just applied. When it comes to meeting the seam of the Satin Taupe shade that we applied on the outer third, use a tap-in motion and then go between the two brushes until you create a nice blend between the two shades. We don't want to lose Satin Taupe, but we also want to make sure it blends nicely into the Clear History shade that we just applied. We're now taking the deepest shade in the palette. This is called Showstopper. It's a rich deep brown in a cool tone. And going back to our Morphe brush, we're wiggling this at the root of the eyelashes. So make sure you tap off all the excess eyeshadow so that it's not too dark, and then start wiggling that at the root of the eyelashes, starting on the outer third, and then use what's left on your bristles to start working that towards the inner corner, but make sure it's really, really tight to the eyelash line. So it's more of a shadow. We're not looking for an eyeliner here. Dipping your brush back into a little bit more of that eyeshadow, we're then going to take this underneath our lower eyelash line, again keeping it much closer to the root of the eyelashes. Then we create that beautiful transition from the deepest shade right at the root, and it fades out into that lightest brown that we've applied. Along the waterline, I'm going to take the Eldridge Seamless Eye Glide Pencil in Cinder Smoke. It's not quite fully black and it almost has a slight grey smoky finish, so I thought this would be perfect for this look. I've applied that along the waterline as well as tight lining along the top, and I'm now taking a very small amount just on the outer third of that top lash line and then using the Morphe brush to very softly smoke it out, not taking it too high, This is going to intensify that outer third, making it look more smoky. And then I'm going to apply some mascara. This one is the LANCôME Lash Idôle. No change there, I've used this for so long and it is fantastic. So that is this eye done with just mascara. I'm going to do both eyes only with mascara first, and then I will show you what it's like with some lashes at the very end. We're now going to move on to the warm side. I'm going to take another MAC palette. This is called Future Flame. Like in our other palette, we're taking the lightest shimmer shade in the palette called What's the Pointillism. It's a luster finish and it is a white and gold shimmer pearlescent eyeshadow. We are matching the placement of the first eye, so this is going on that inner corner, making sure to take it along our tear duct and a little bit onto the mobile lid itself. I love this shade. I think it's so beautiful on the inner corner. It really gives this beautiful warmth and it feels candlelight-esque. I tend to use what's left on the bristles for the brow bone because I don't want it to be too frosty. Going back to our eyeshadow palette, for our transitional shade, I'm going to use Worldwide Wine, which is a warm wine burgundy deep red. It's a matte finish and I'm using it on the same brush, which is the MAC 286 brush. Like before, we're using this to blend the colour into our socket. First, concentrating that colour on the outer third of the mobile lid. That's where the original placement goes. Then you use what's left on the bristles to work in circular motions through the socket line. To create a nice blend, use a buffing motion with a light hand. In order to do this, place your hand further down the handle of the brush and that way you'll use a lighter hand naturally. You'll notice on the first eye I did the top lid first and then the lower eyelash line, but on this eye I'm just going to show you that you can do it all at the same time. So we're taking that same shade underneath our lower eyelashes before we move on to the next shade. But again, make sure we connect that with the outer corner of the top lid to create a nice framing to the eye. Now we're first going in with the shade Copper In, which I'm then going to layer with La Vida Mocha. I'm using my Rephr number 2 brush, applying Copper In to the outer third of that mobile lid and then patting it softly as we take it towards the centre of the eyelid. This is a frost finish in a warm, radiant, reddish copper tone. It's quite warm, which is why I wanted to tone it down with a layer of the La Vida Mocha. This is what I'm using now. It's a luster finish. It's a brown bronzy tone and a warm base. Obviously it gives a beautiful sheen, so just pat this over the top and you'll get this beautiful shade. Go back in with your MAC 286 brush to blend the seam of this eyeshadow into that transitional shade that we already applied. Use a very light hand and work in soft circular motions. Like we did with the cool tone eye, I'm going to take this matte shade on the inner half of the mobile lid. This shade is called Samoa Silk. It's a matte finish. It's a warm peach beige. And again, using that big brush by Rephr to place this. Then we're going to top that with the first shade that we used on the very inner corner. And that's creating that beautiful sheen like we have on the opposite eye, but this is a warm version. We have another classic MAC shade here. This is Embark. This is a matte finish in an intense red aubergine shade. I've used this shade on so many brides over the years. It's a lovely, lovely tone. We're using this shade to tap that close to the root of the eyelashes all the way along, but again, making sure the first placement is on the outer third where the majority of that colour is going to lie, and then you're going to use what's left on the bristles to pull that colour all the way along to the inner corner to create a shadow, and then we're also going to do the same underneath our lower eyelashes. For eyeliner, we're sticking with the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Eye Glide. This one is in Burnt Umber. This is a warm brown, so you can really see the difference between that Cinder smoke and this warm brown. Again, taking this along the waterline as well as the upper waterline and then on the outer third of that mobile lid, just like we did on the first eye. And we're blending that very softly to create a more intense smoke on this outer third. Then you're ready for your mascara. Don't forget to give your lashes a good curl first. I always use my Rephr curlers. Apply that on your top and lower eyelashes and feel free to layer this if you're not planning on wearing any false eyelashes. So this is both eyes complete with just mascara, and again I'm going to show you the difference with some false eyelashes. The lashes I'm going to use today are the Dark Swan of Denmark Secret 03 Feather Lashes. You can apply these to the top of your eyelashes or underneath, but I'm going to apply them above my eyelashes today. I'm using a mix of 10mm and 12mm. I always tend to start with a 10mm on the very outer corner, then do 3 or 4 12mm and then end with a 10mm on the inner corner. I also have a discount code that you can use. Shonagh 10 will get you 10% off of your order at the checkout, which again I will link in the description bar along with all the other products I've used today. And if you are a little bit unfamiliar with applying eyelashes and you're interested in learning more, I have a dedicated tutorial to these exact eyelashes. So there you have it, the exact same smoky eye technique, but look how high contrast that is just by switching from cool tones to warm tones. I have a neutral undertone, so I can pull off both cool and warm, although I personally always prefer a little bit of a warm look. If you don't know your undertone or what works best for you, I do have a tutorial on discovering your undertone, so feel free to go check that out. I will link it in the description bar again, along with everything that I've used today, so you can shop directly from this video. Would you like to see more comparison videos like this? Let me know in the comments what you would love to see next, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss my next tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.